Hi, my name is Elena. This short activity is about hosting and capacity management. Now, hosting may be a new part of the service cycle for yourself. Many operations have employed hosting since returning from lockdown. It's a great way of welcoming the guests, but also a great way of passing information on to the guests. Let's have a think about the stages that we would go through for great hosting. First and foremost, it's about hospitality, and it's about really welcoming the guests. So the first really important thing is a big smile and a friendly welcome. The second stage is to control the flow. Now it may be that we have bookings in place and they're coming at their allotted times, but it may be that we're having walk-up guests and people that haven't booked, and it may be necessary to control the flow. If we're very busy and if all our tables are full, we're then able to hopefully converse with the guest about maybe asking them to wait. It's a great opportunity for us if we're in that situation that we're asking guests to wait and indeed queue maybe, but we need to manage that. So if it costs us a little bit of an investment to keep somebody to wait, then that's worth thinking about. So if we have to entice the guests and say, well, at the moment we're full. But if you'd just like to wait over here or just outside or whatever the queuing system is, what we'll make sure we do is when we get you to the table, the first drinks on us or something around that basis. Let's think now about managing capacity, because with the host, that's the third sort of key activity, and we've touched on some elements already. But managing capacity is the host's ability to maximize the revenue from a given shift. Now there's some simple tips here. So it might be things as simple as making sure where possible we would seat 2 guests on a table for 2 and not on a table for 4. Because if we seat them on a table for 4 and then we get a 4 walk up and we're full, we can't accommodate that 4. We can't put the 4 on a 2. So it's trying where possible to seat the right number of guests at the table with the right number of covers. That's the first big tip. The second tip is kind of prior to the shift itself, if we're managing bookings, is to think about when we enable those bookings to come in. Now, when people are making a prior booking, they obviously have a time in mind that they would ideally like to book the table, so they may like to book the table at 7:30. However, if 7:30 isn't available, then in most cases, most guests will move their sort of expectation either side, so it might be that we can get them up to coming in an hour earlier or an hour later. Now, why does this matter? What it means is if we know that our peak for walk-ups is between 7:30 or 8:30, then what we can do is reduce the number of bookings we're going to take during that time slot and encourage them to move either side. So we would bring bookings earlier in the evening or later in the evening, and therefore keeping the middle of the evening free for the walk-ups. To do this, we need to be confident of our level of walk-ups. And so what I would recommend is before employing such a policy is to start measuring. How many walk-ups do we get each evening? At what times do the walk-ups arise? Then we can start to form a pattern. In many ways, this activity of managing capacity is a bit like a big game of Tetris. What we've got at the start of the shift is a big empty sheet. And what we want to do is to get tables onto the sheet. So a table of 4 drops with 4 covers on it. A table of 2 drops with 2 on it. And we're trying to manage both with the numbers of covers on each table, but also turning the covers over. We don't want tables free during our peak service, if that's possible. As well as welcoming guests into the pub, bar, or restaurant, it's also a great opportunity for the host to say a big thank you and a big farewell. Our colleagues on the floor and at the bar have probably already done this, but it's a great way as guests leave the pub, bar, or restaurant just to say a big thank you and a big goodbye.